I bring this baby into the world and then I'm gone. Hey there, welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, my name is Emily. In today's video, I am doing part 3 of this little series of why I am terrified of having more children, even though I want more. So let's get into it. So in the first video, if you guys watched it, I talked about Aubrey's birth story and kind of how it made me feel like less of a woman. So if you haven't watched that video, make sure you go check it out. I will link it above in the little eye up here or in the description box down below, as well as our second video in this little series where I talk about Aubrey's NICU stay and the kind of traumatic events that happened in the week following her birth. But in today's video, I am going to be sharing kind of another side of the traumatic events that followed her birth, but they kind of deal with me. As I mentioned in our little second video in this series, I was discharged from the hospital on the Saturday following Aubrey's birth. She was born on Thursday evening, so I was able to be discharged on Saturday, but I was readmitted to the hospital on like the Tuesday or Wednesday that followed while Aubrey was still in the NICU. And I was admitted because my legs were super swollen. Now, obviously, I had just given birth via C-section. I had just had major surgery and I should have been resting, but my baby was in the NICU and I wanted to go see her. And so a lot of the times I would walk a large amount of distance to get to the elevator, to go up to her floor, to get to her bedside, and then I was able to sit down. And in retrospect, I think maybe that was just like adrenaline in my body, like I need to see my baby. I didn't think about maybe the pain that I was in, but I was in pain. I mean, I had just had major surgery and I didn't really think much of it, but my legs were hurting. I didn't just have swollen ankles, I had swollen up to past my knees. My whole leg was just swollen and it wasn't going away. And I showed my mom, I was like, Mom, like, this just doesn't feel right or whatever. And it hurt me to walk and I was sore. At one point, I'm in the NICU with Aubrey and my mom's there. And, we asked the nurse, like, my legs are really swollen. Like, is this normal? And the nurses were like, yeah, like you get swollen legs, after birth and whatnot. And my mom was like, you need to feel her legs. And they felt them and they were like rock hard. And they were like, oh, you need to go see your doctor right now. Like, this is not good. I tried to make an appointment with my doctor. I couldn't get like a hold of him. So then I went down to the emergency room and, I was heartbroken because like, I know my baby's up many floors above and I just want to see her. And, I'm a new mom and all the emotions are running. And here I am trapped now in the emergency room. And, I'm like, can you just give me some, Lasix, which is, kind of like helping to kind of drain the extra fluid, can you prescribe me some Lasix so I can deal with my legs and go up and see my baby? And the doctor listened to my heart and they heard something that wasn't supposed to be there. So instead of just giving me the meds that I wanted, I had to be admitted to the hospital. I was taken up to, I think, the 3rd floor, and I was there for a couple of days. And during those couple of days, it was a lot of waiting. It was a lot of tests. At one point, they thought I may have had or might have like a pulmonary embolism. I had scans of my heart. I had scans of my abdomen. And during this time, actually, the lady who was like, doing my heart or whatever, she was just kind of exploring the rest of my body. She's like, I kind of miss this like general stuff. And so she's looking, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you have a lot of gallstones. So anyways, the doctors ended up saying like I had the peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is when your heart gets enlarged kind of during the last portion of your pregnancy and then after giving birth, it's the enlarged heart. So I had to have a cardiologist and go to plenty of appointments. And eventually they said that my heart returned back to its normal size. And 1% of women, apparently, this is the stat that I heard, 1% of women get this peripartum cardiomyopathy. And now that I've had it, I have a 10% chance of getting it again. And I think with the enlarged heart, that probably kind of kept a lot of the fluid in my body. I don't know if I think they're related. This is all just kind of going off of what I remember hearing from my doctor's appointments. So please make sure, as a disclaimer, to look up, medical journals and ask your doctor about this. Just don't take my word for it. But I had a lot of cardiologist appointments and, having to keep going back in for this and that and infections that I ended up getting. It was a very tough year. When Aubrey turned about 1 is when I had my gallbladder surgery and had my gallbladder removed. And even though I have no gallbladder, there is a 4% chance I could still get gallstones in the future. Not sure how that works, but since I was the 1% to have the enlarged heart, I'm not feeling too optimistic about this 4% chance of me getting the gallstones again. So we'll see if that happens again. Anyways, I was in the hospital for 4 or 5 days, and I was terrified that Aubrey would be released from the NICU before I was eventually released from the hospital. Because I was at least when we're in the hospital together, I can try to nurse her. The nurses were bringing her down to me in this little incubator. I mentioned that in the last video. The nurses would bring her down. She could have a security escort, and she was able to come down to the dirty floor, which was not really baby safe, to come and see me and for me to nurse her and try to bond with her while we were both in the hospital. But it was really hard for me because it was a lot of waiting. It was okay, let's figure out what's wrong with me. Come on, let's figure out why I have these huge, ginormous, liquid-filled legs. Let's fix that problem and then let's be done with it. Luckily, I didn't have the pulmonary embolism. Didn't really find much wrong with me. And they ended up giving me the Lasix and then some potassium to kind of help. When you're on the medicine to kind of drain your body, your heart needs the potassium, as far as I understand. So, I had to be on that medicine for, I want to say, a few weeks. And then my legs finally returned to their normal large selves, since I'm still a little overweight. But yeah, in 3 weeks, you could just see a complete difference. And I actually lost a lot of my baby weight in that time. And I want to say it was just all fluid. It made me kind of feel good about myself and my pregnancy, because I had gained, I want to say 50 pounds-ish during my pregnancy, but I had lost 45 pounds in 3 weeks following my pregnancy. So a lot of that was fluid, and it did make me feel oh, okay, maybe I didn't gain that much fat while I was, pregnant. Maybe it really was just fluid and I was somewhat healthy during my pregnancy. It was just kind of how my body was responding to pregnancy that was kind of the issue. But following Aubrey's birth, having to go to all of the cardiologist appointments and then the regular physician appointments, it just kind of seemed every time I went in, something else was wrong and something else had to be dealt with or whatever. I did deal with postpartum depression, and I suffered from depression prior to getting pregnant. I don't suffer from it too extreme, but I do suffer from it. And it is very real. It is very lonely and painful in the emotional sense and in the physical sense, because when I cry really hard. But props to all you mamas who are out there dealing with postpartum anything, really. It is not easy to do motherhood and deal with all tens of other physical issues that come with motherhood. It's not easy. It's not always fun. And so props to all of you mamas out there who feel like you have way more on your plate than you can handle. I have empathy for you. I've gone through a lot of stuff myself, and I know that it can be a struggle. And so I am here for you, to pray for you. If you need prayers and you don't feel like dropping them in the comments below, you can email me. My email is in our About section in this channel. But as I mentioned before, I found out I had gallstones. We decided to go ahead, let's try to get the surgery, out of the way, because I didn't want to have any more attacks. It was scary for me because I had the enlarged heart issue. anytime I had a gallstone attack, it felt like a heart attack to me. And it was hard for me to be like, is this something wrong with my heart, or is this a gallstone attack? Like, I kept going back and forth, like, am I gonna die, or am I gonna get over this in a couple of hours? And that was, I think, the really scary part for me, because I didn't know. It wasn't like, oh, there was nothing wrong with my heart to begin with. This is just a gallstone attack, I'll get through this. It was like, I'm really in pain, this is very uncomfortable, like, I feel like I'm dying. Is this a gallstone attack, or am I actually dying? Like, I didn't wanna cry wolf and call 911 and get the paramedics down here for it to just be a gallstone attack. And we were trying to postpone my gallstone surgery because I was still nursing Aubrey, and I didn't want to have to not nurse her for a few days and whatnot. I did have a lot of stored milk, so that wouldn't really be the problem. It would just be like, will she continue nursing when I get off the medicines that I was on? But I ended up scheduling my surgery for when she turned 1. And we meant for it to happen months earlier, but in order for me to be cleared for surgery, I had to do a stress test to make sure that my heart would handle it. And I failed my stress test in like the first 10 seconds. I kid you not, I was walking on the treadmill. I was walking faster than the treadmill was going because it was so slow. And my feet were like hitting the front of the treadmill because it was going so slow. And my heart rhythm was doing something a little funky that apparently my doctor wasn't there. The technician leading it, like, he had to call it because they didn't want something bad to happen to me if something's gonna go wrong. But whatever my heart was doing, some people just, it happens to them, and then their heart gets like into a good rhythm when they're working out. Well, they stopped me because my heart had some weird rhythm, and I failed my stress test. And I was like, I didn't even hit a fast walk. Like, I was like barely walking at all. How could I fail the stress test? I was like, let me do it again. Like, I'm a straight A student. I don't fail tests. This is like the first test I fail. Like, what the heck? I walked out crying. I was like, what is wrong with me? You know, I have an uncle who actually died from a heart attack in his 30s, and he was a smoker. I am not, so I know that definitely played a part, I think, in the reason he passed. But I am terrified. Not so much now. I think the fear has subsided, but during that point in my life, with every doctor's appointment like something else being wrong with me, I was terrified that I was going to be the one out of my siblings to die in her, at that point, 20s. I was 29. And I know that it's possible. It's like, it's happened in my family before. People die young. It would be a big deal no matter what. But to me, it wouldn't be a big deal if I didn't have a child that I would leave behind. That was the thing that scared me the most, was I bring this baby into the world and then I'm gone. I don't want that to happen. So all this being said, I am terrified of being the 4% that gets gallstones without a gallbladder, terrified of having the enlarged heart and the huge blown up legs again. I'm terrified of having to do a C-section again when I didn't want to in the first place. I'm worried about having to have my baby in the NICU again, which I actually forgot to mention that I didn't get to hold Aubrey for like at least a day or two, and that killed me, because everyone's experience that I've heard, it's like the baby's born, they put the baby on your chest, you know, skin to skin, and you try nursing, and there I was, like, not even able to hold her for a really long time. I'm afraid that that's going to happen again. There's so much fear, and I know that I need to remind myself that fear is not from the Lord, and I need to let it go, and that every pregnancy is different, every birth is different. I need to remember that, and I need to remind myself. So if you are a mama out there who has had any bits of the pieces that I've had, or even worse, take a deep breath and remind yourself that every pregnancy is different, and every birth story is different, and hopefully it'll be better different in the future. Thank you for following along in this little series that I've put together for you guys. Now you know why I am so terrified of having to like relive a lot of those same experiences with any future pregnancies. And despite all of that, we are hoping to have many more children, God willing, and we will make sure to bring you guys along with us on that journey. But in the meantime, it's all trying to conceive videos and updates until we finally are blessed with one more baby. So until next time, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you later. Woohoo! You've made it to the end of the video. If you didn't know already, my name is Emily from Limabean Living. Welcome. We are so happy to have you. We post videos every Monday and Friday on a variety of content: lifestyle, cooking, cleaning, military life, DIYs, encouraging mathematical development in children, and so much more. Thank you so much again for watching, and until next time.